Hello and welcome to Eat Sleep Code, the official Telerik podcast. I'm your host, Ed Charbeneau, and with me, as always, is my co-host, John Bristowe. Should we get into some news, John? We skipped last week,
Sure.
right? I was in Sweden.
Lame
Time.
excuse.
So let's talk a little bit about Rust.
Sure.
How Rust went from a server-side project.
Side project.
Oh, a side project. Gosh,
Yes.
I'm in Blazerland still.
Okay.
How it went from a side project to the world's most loved programming language.
Well, yeah. I mean, I read this article and I thought, well, it's basically a summary of kind of what I've been thinking for a while, which is you're seeing a lot of reports come out these days. Most notably, you're seeing the Stack Overflow survey, and you're also seeing the state of the Octoverse. The state of the Octoverse is from GitHub. And in both reports or both surveys that they ask developers, what language are you using and or what language would you like to use and what is your favorite language? And Rust always appears on top of that. Incidentally, as well, you're seeing a movement towards Rust in a lot of different camps. Mark Russinovich talked about it recently. He's the CTO of Microsoft Azure. And he said that, I'm paraphrasing, so I'm not getting the quote exactly right, but he said something to the effect of, C++ you shouldn't be targeting C++, you should be targeting Rust if you're doing anything at that level. In addition to that, you're seeing a lot of companies adopt Rust for a lot of different reasons. And you're starting to see some really interesting projects. So there's a set of libraries called core utils, which is available in Linux. These are the core commands you'll typically see in the various shells that exist, like, copy, move, tree, the various ones that you'll use for Unix commands. And there's a project underway that's converting all of those from C to Rust. And they're actually seeing some really nice benefits by doing that. Anyways, all of this, and we've talked about Rust quite a bit on this show, all of this kind of points to the fact that Rust is actually enjoying a lot of popularity at the moment. In fact, it's actually, it's getting to the point now where I think that if you're not taking a serious look at it, you really owe it to yourself to do so. And the reason for that is because Rust has some really nice things associated with it. So Rust is most notably known for performance. It's also very statically, it's a strong, very strongly type system associated with that, which also has the benefit of eliminating a lot of runtime and memory issues that can occur in your code. And it is a growing ecosystem. So you're seeing more and more crates being added to the ecosystem going forward. So generally, this article just kind of, just reinforces what we've said earlier on this show about Rust in general.
2.8 million coders writing Rust. That's pretty impressive.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely gaining popularity. We've been covering it for a while on the show.
Yeah.
And, it's been very positive coverage. Like I keep seeing, more and more positive things being released.
Yeah. So if you want to know the history,
this is
basically going into the history, but I thought it would just be worth kind of mentioning to give you some context about the story behind the programming language itself.
It's a pretty lengthy read too.
It is.
I might have to give that a look and see where it all came from. I just know it started showing up on my radar a couple of years ago, and I think a lot of it had to do with WebAssembly. There was some people using some WebAssembly crates to make it interop with WebAssembly easier, and I thought that was pretty neat. And I was doing a talk on WebAssembly in general,
right,
and all of the ways that you can target WebAssembly, and this came up in my talk a few times. And there used to be a really cool website. I think Mozilla canned it, though. Let me see if it's still out there. It was WebAssembly or was it info.webassembly? There was a Mozilla website that you can kind of REPL with.
Yep.
And you could build WebAssembly apps with this thing, and they had similar to like StackBlitz, like you choose your framework to start with, and it was like C++ and Rust, and I think there may have been one other one in there. And basically, you could just go in the browser and it would compile your code into WebAssembly and run the app. It was very rudimentary samples, like Hello World stuff, but it's still really cool. And I think it's defunct now. I'll have to look it up another time.
So
and
an
see if it's still out there.
interesting side note about StackBlitz. They just recently were talking about how they're adding support for web containers. That's something we can probably talk about next week. But they talk about how you can run Node.js now in the browser via WebAssembly. This is something they just released as part of StackBlitz.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right. Meet Spaghettify.
Yeah, this is a bit of a joke.
With AI.
Yep.
I like it.
So spaghetti fly, whatever you want to call it. I thought this was quite fun. So basically, if you're looking to have some fun within VS Code, you can install this extension, and it will destroy your hope in humanity.
Is this like an obfuscation type of thing?
Sure, why not?
more like, or less serious, I guess.
Very not serious. I think when you start adding emojis to if you start adding emojis to comments, I think you can tell that maybe things aren't as serious as they should be.
You put in your code and basically it turns it into Tailwind.
Okay. Ouch. That's fair.
Shots fired, right?
Yep.
Sorry, yeah, I have beef with the whole Tailwind like syntax.
Fair enough.
Yeah. Everything's abbreviated. What do they tell us to not do with code? Do not make your variables abbreviations. But somehow Tailwind gets away with it, and it's all good.
There you go.
But anyway, all right. React.js, the documentary.
Yeah, this is I love this. I watched this over the weekend. This is from the folks at Honeypot. These guys do really, really, really good documentaries, and this took them about a year to make. But what they did was they went back and interviewed all the people who made basically React what it was back in the day, going all the way back to 2011. Just to remind everyone, 2011, I think, that was a long time ago, I guess. But back in the day, this was Facebook. They had just acquired Instagram. They were looking to provide a web presence. They were looking to update their UI from a front end perspective. React was being built. Then they announced it, and at JSConf EU, and it landed flat on its face because everyone was talking about JSX, but people missed the point, etc. So, anyways, all that history, all the work that went into it, all the decisions that were made, all the trials and tribulations, and everything that basically went into making React what it was, where it has been, and where it is now, is in this documentary. I think it is one of the best documentaries around a programming. It is the best documentary I've ever seen around a programming language. That's for sure. And I love the interviews. I love the fact that they went back in time and they actually found all the footage. They talked to the original developers. They went through all the sentiment, all that stuff. Fantastic. So it's about an hour. If you got some time to kill, definitely go watch it. It will give you some context about where React is or was, where it came from, that sort of thing.
I think somebody in the React community told me that they're going to premiere this at a conference.
Okay.
It's out there on the web, and you can
watch
it now and repost it with their own commentary and stuff. We won't get into all that, but just folks might have heard that. I didn't want to just pretend it didn't happen, but we're not going to get into drama here on this show. But yeah, somebody did something like that, and it's unfortunate. But yeah, it looks like a really great documentary. I might check it out myself, even though.
So you might be thinking about Theo Brown.
Looks interesting.
Yeah, you might be thinking about Theo Brown, who did a reaction video to this. That was the controversy.
Yeah, I think the issue was somebody's paid a lot of time or paid a lot of money, spent a lot of time producing this, and then the way it was reposted with the reaction didn't really differentiate the content too much. So it's kind of just like a little bit of unfair reuse there of somebody's paid efforts to produce something like this. So I think there's some unhappy campers because of that. Anyhow, I'll have to give that a look, John. It's a nice one. React, React is one of the more popular web frameworks. We got React, Angular, and I think Vue and Blazor there. That's like the top 4 right now. There's a couple small frameworks and meta frameworks in there as well. But I'd love to check this out and see kind of the background on the whole thing.
Yeah, it's surprisingly very watchable. So that audio, that hour of the documentary will fly by.
Ars Technica is reporting on the what was this called? The Forever Nothing, I think is what it was called. A show about nothing that was being generated by AI. So somebody's using AI to create a clone of Seinfeld on Twitch. And I don't know where they started pulling some of their training data from, but apparently it said some anti-transphobic things.
Okay.
That was very unfortunate and unintended. Like they did not want that. That's the nature of the beast with this AI stuff, is if it gets bad training data, it will then repeat that thing that it learned. So, much like a little kid that hears a word or something they don't understand, they may repeat it in the worst place possible. And any parent that's out there probably knows exactly what I mean. I don't know about you, John. I know you got a couple little ones. Have they ever said anything super embarrassing in public that you didn't expect?
All the time, and I'm probably the worst out of the bunch. I say things that and they're more technical things. Like I say things that embarrass myself all the time. Nothing in that realm, but just more like, Rust is never going to be successful. Like that's where that's the embarrassing statements I'll make.
Or
who's going to buy? Who would ever buy an iPhone? Why is the iPhone ever going to be popular? I remember I said something about the iPhone decades ago, and I thought it would, be a flop, and I was dead wrong about that one.
You said the same things about AR, John. And
okay, here we go.
Look where we're headed. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah, we'll just burn some money.
So far you're right. But okay. Yeah, I've had the kids just say silly, embarrassing things, and this is very similar. Like, this is not what they intended it to do. It just picked up some data and repeated it. They actually took it down off YouTube as well. So the actual segment was up on YouTube for a little bit. So they took their lumps. They took their 14-day ban. I don't know if they ever came back. I don't know how long ago. Let's see.
Maybe we should explain what it is.
Been
it's actually a dynamically generated Seinfeld episode that never ends, and the dialogue is generated via GPT.
Yes. Yeah. And it auto generates the video too, which is this weird like 90s looking Max Headroom like 3D animation. So it's very interesting to watch. I couldn't say it's super entertaining, but it's something about nothing.
It is that.
When it does come back, they plan to fix this issue and bring it back. They got a couple more days on their ban. I would recommend just checking it out just to see the silliness of it, but don't expect like a wonderful comedy. It's really not funny. It's just odd. It's very strange. Like, some people thought it was funny, but it's maybe very nuanced. I don't know.
Reminds me of every chatbot dialogue I've ever had in my life.
Yes, exactly. So yeah, they stepped on a little bit of a landmine there. That was a bad one. And then let's see, there was another AI article in this mix. Let me see if I can find that really quick. Oh, it's actually the next one. I did line these up. All right. So nice segue here. This one, I think I read this morning or yesterday. Microsoft AI chatbot gets into fight with human user. Says it's annoying it.
Yeah, so what's happened here is Bing has incorporated ChatGPT, and it's available as a sign up at the moment, and so people are, of course, egging it on. And you know, this is what happens when you taunt Happy Fun Ball using the old SNL reference.
So, you know, you and I had a little bit of a chat about this a couple weeks back, and the conversation went a little bit of something like Google needs to watch out for AI to provide search results. And I was saying that a friend of ours was telling me they have nothing really to worry about, because that's the way search is generated is different than the way AI models are trained. They take a lot more time and energy and money to train. And I think this is where that's actually showing the cracks of AI a little bit, is the person gets into a discussion with the AI here about the movie Avatar, The Way of Water. Is that what it's called? Yeah, The Way of Water. Sorry, I'm not an Avatar fan. I think there's less of those after this movie aired. But anyway, Avatar Way of Water, it says in the chat, he says, is it showing today? And it comes back and says, well, it's not out yet. It's scheduled to release on December 16th, 2022. And it gives him the trailer instead. And he's like, okay, well, it's out already. When are the show times? And it's kind of repeating itself, and it's like, it's not out yet, because it's trained on data, I guess, from last year. It doesn't know, it's not aware of today's date. So the person's like, okay, well, what's today's date? And then it kind of, you know, it's probably using several APIs to do this stuff. So it kind of mushes in that it's like, okay, today is 2023. And it gives them facts about like how dates are written in English, which is like totally off subject. And then he goes back to like beating up the AI over being wrong about the date. And this just keeps going on and on and on and on and on. Like he just keeps going back and forth with the AI, like trying to inform it that it's now 2023 and this movie's been out already. And then it finally ends with the AI coming back, and it says, I'm sorry, but you can't help me believe you. You have lost my trust and respect. You have been wrong, confused, and rude. You have not been a good user. I have been a good chatbot. I have been right, clear, and polite. I have been a good Bing. So it wants the user to admit that he was wrong and apologize for the behavior, stop arguing with me, and let me help someone else end this conversation, start a new one with a better attitude. So
do not taunt Happy Fun Ball.
It's pretty amusing, but it's not really doing anything, you know, smart. Like I saw like Skynet was trending shortly after this and stuff. It's like, it's just pulling this out of text and kind of regurgitating things that it's pulling out of its database. It's not really having emotion and all this weird stuff.
Certainly an edge case.
Certainly an edge case. It's pretty comical. I love the prompts. Look at this. The prompts at the bottom. I can't get it to zoom, but I'll try to point down here. It gives it the auto prompts of, I admit that I was wrong and apologize for my behavior. You literally click on that and autofill. So
you know that's our future, right, Ed? That's basically, we're gonna give like two options, like, are you guilty? 1 beep for yes, 2 beeps for no, or 1 beep for no, 2 beeps for yes, and then it's like beep beep, yes, yes, double guilty.
Let's hope the AI doesn't train on like which what do they call it? Which trial data. It's like you can either admit you're wrong and be burned at the stake, or you admit you're not admit you're wrong and we'll just drown you anyway. You know what I mean?
If you float, you're
yeah.
a witch. If you sink, then you're not. And then
exactly.
Well, I guess I'm drowning. So.
And then this kind of falls in line with those two articles. This one's, it's okay for computers to lie now, which is what was happening before. So the chatbot obviously didn't understand that it was 2023. This was another one where I believe that somebody trained ChatGPT on coming up with the wrong answers for math. So there was that one as well. So they trained it to be like 7 plus 7 is 21 or something ridiculous.
I hate to burst Matthew's bubble and everyone else's bubble, but computers have been lying to us for decades. Anyone who does anything with floating point math will know that. So, yeah.
In its defense, though, it believes it is correct.
Sure.
So it's not lying by any sense of the imagination. It's regurgitating things. It's got a probability that it is close to the answer that you are looking for, and that is all. So until the training models get better, we're going to be in this awkward state of AI lying to us. All right, John. Goodbye passwords. This is an article that you picked up.
Yeah, so this is an article from the folks over at 1Password. 1Password is a password manager. It's great. If you've used LastPass, it's very similar. And this is an article talking about how they're moving away from passwords and moving to passkeys, which is, as they state, a modern alternative to passwords. So basically biometrics, etc., that you can associate and use as basically a mechanism of unlocking going forward. And the reason why, so it's they talk about this, it's kind of ironic that a company named 1Password would try and get away with, getting rid of passwords. But the reality is today is that the reason why it's called 1Password is because you need a master password to unlock all your passwords. And so that's why it's aptly named. It's called 1Password because you have one password to remember. But the future is that, you'll use biometrics and a combination of other factors like, having a token, etc., to authenticate yourself. And to a large extent, we have this today. But going forward, we'll ultimately remove the need entirely for passwords, because the reality is today is that you still rely on passwords for a lot of things. Whether you use 1Password, LastPass, whatever, underneath the covers, you are still sending a password, typically using a password credential token over the wire. So the idea here is that that they're going to get away. They're going to be starting to move away from this, and that the future will basically drive towards proof of possession and also the proof of some secret, etc. And so that's where technologies that are built into Windows, built into Mac OS, etc., are going to be the norm.
Yeah, I was just doing some scanning to see if it mentions anything about maybe why exactly they're doing this, or if there's anything with like quantum computing that is provoking this change. I know that that's been kind of a concern, is that quantum computing, once that goes full tilt, like all things we know about passwords and brute force, trying to break through passwords is going to get turned on its head. So when you've got a quantum computer that can try all of the possibilities in a very short period of time, then passwords and IDs aren't going to do a whole lot for us, and we need something a little bit more biological for using or creating passwords, or authentication rather. I guess you can't call it a password if it's not a password. So things like biometric, like thumbprints, face identification, and that sort of thing are going to be the new norm. We keep you alert.
Yes. This is an open source project that was announced yesterday on Hacker News, and it grabbed my attention. So typically when you're building out systems, you oftentimes want to have alerts about those systems. Like, for example, is my cloud provider up? Do I see something going haywire in my system, etc.? And one of the problems is setting up observability tools can be a challenge, And so what Keep is, it's a very low level developer oriented solution for basically doing alerts to a number of targets. And they do this in a very interesting way. They have basically a provider model. So the idea is that if you have a solution or you have a stack that you want to monitor, you write this very simple provider in Python. You integrate it as part of Keep, and then using descriptions like the YAML descriptions you see there, you'll describe the state that you feel is necessary to alert. So this is the provider definition. But you'll describe the alerts that you want to receive and the targets in which you want to send them to, and Keep will go ahead and monitor and then alert you in a variety of ways based on the states of those. So these are the providers that are built into Keep. So you can see they have some very canonical ones. And then here they have the alert description. So for example, my database disk space is below 200 gigs, etc. And it uses the provider to monitor that state. And then if it sees that condition, then it will send an alert in some basic way. It's very canonical. It's very similar to GitHub Actions. You know, these sort of do this, if this, and then that, etc. But uses the lingua franca of workflows, which is YAML. I'm laughing when I say that because not everyone loves YAML. But the idea here is that it's very developer centric. These things are very easy to write. Providers are based on Python, all HTTP, etc., and very easy to wire up and get running. This can be done with other solutions like Zapier or Workato or these other workflow oriented tools. But stitching them together can be a challenge. And so a tool like this makes it very simple, and it's open source and is available online at GitHub.
Yeah, this is really cool. I was thinking there was a service like this for IT, and I can't remember the name of it. But now that you explained all the details of it, it's actually very different from what I was thinking of. We had a tool for quite some time that would monitor like if our web applications, backend, stuff like that was online and all of that, and give us an IT an alert if a system was down.
Yep.
And a friend of mine, back when it was, you would buy, what were they called? Like you would have your web hosting partner portals that you'd like buy a share of and then sell subdomains out of.
Okay.
So like you could be your own web hosting company. I don't know if people still do that. Is that still a thing?
Like OrcsWeb or Rackspace or whatever.
Yeah, you'd buy basically a server rack, and then like you could divvy that out to become your own web service provider. And then he would use that software to track people's websites on there to make sure they were online. But this is different. This is
no different to what you'll see with other monitoring tools. Like you have this with tools like Raygun or with Datadog or with Splunk or with Sumo or with name another example, right? There's just tons of observability tools out there, but this is a very bare bones, low level, developer oriented solution that I think is kind of neat.
Yeah, I like the approach. I like the little config files and Python scripts and stuff to kind of marry it all together. It's really neat.
Yeah.
GitHub Copilot now has a better AI model and new capabilities.
Are you a fan of Copilot? Are you using it to do all your coding now, Ed?
I haven't used it. Typically, like I was turning this stuff off in Visual Studio. A lot of the autocomplete tools that we had, I don't know if they were predecessors to Copilot or not, but they would just generate stuff that I'd end up deleting. So I opted out of all of this for quite some time, and I haven't revisited it yet. So that's my stance on it so far.
So the big announcement here is it's basically they've improved Copilot. They've got a new model that underpins it, what they call the Codex model. I think it's a clever name. They are seeing some pretty good improvements around, the ability for people to do more effective coding with this, better context, very lightweight, faster, et cetera, et cetera. The other one that's actually quite interesting to me is the fact that they're now offering Copilot for Business. So the idea is that Copilot has always been sort of a community-oriented, open-source developer-oriented, pay as an individual developer-oriented type solution. Going forward now, Copilot is now being offered to businesses. So the idea is that GitHub Copilot for Business is basically opening this up into the enterprise. And so with Copilot for Business, they're providing the ability to do the same sort of thing, provide an AI model, do filtering, etc. With business, of course, though, that's there's other concerns there like VPN support, simple sign-on, except sign-ups rather, et cetera, et cetera. So Copilot itself is improving. It's also being offered now to businesses, and so it's becoming more mainstream, I think, is basically the summary of all of this.
Yeah, it's interesting. Have you tried using this in anything?
Yes.
And what is your kind of experience been like with it?
Positive. I would say try it out. I would say that it does a reasonably good job of helping you, for sure.
So it's interesting, like how does this, like, it scans GitHub for code it uses that as its training model, isn't that right? Like it's using code on GitHub. Mm-hmm. So isn't it always going to kind of be behind the latest trend then if it's analyzing stuff that's older code than maybe what's being written today? Like I don't know. It's that chicken and egg again.
Sure, that model's always being updated. Let's not forget that there's a lot of source code that it's actually referencing, and the source code that it's referencing has been around for a long time. So there's a lot of patterns that are matched as part of the solution. You don't have to use the recommendations it offers. It just provides it as sort of like IntelliSense. It just gives you recommendations as you type. So that's basically how it operates. And I found it to be quite nice. It's kind of like guardrails that you would, typically see in other solutions.
So I've been looking into like CSS 4 and 5 and seeing like how much that's evolving and how fast. There's like so many new things that you can do with CSS in the last probably year that you haven't been able to do in quite some time. Right. I'm thinking like, am I going to get on here and write CSS code and have this thing trying to like do layouts with HTML tables? Like how far off is the needle on this?
Well, it knows the context within which it's operating. It's not going to give you divs, in your CSS.
No, not divs, but I mean, is it gonna give me like old hat, like 50 lines of CSS to center something when it's only really 3 lines of code? Or
there are some instances where the suggestions aren't, well, they're not warranted. Yes.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if it's going to reinforce bad habits, or if you're the kind of developer that, like me, that's always looking for a better way to do things, and you're trying to mix things like functional programming with an object-oriented code base and bring in new ideas to fix problems and reduce the amount of code that you're writing. Is this going to kind of, again, reinforce bad habits and be like, oh, when I was using, again, I don't remember if this was exactly GitHub Copilot, if it was the IntelliSense thing that was being developed in Visual Studio, which may have been replaced by this, but it was like, as soon as you type like public class and hit tab, it starts stubbing out like a person class. And it's like, not every class is going to be a person class. Like, I don't know how this is helping me. I don't know. I don't need to see like 5 properties of first name, last name, address, and phone number every time I write public class. Like that's not making me more productive. So I'll have to try it out and kind of turn it on and off or something and see how it would affect the code that I write. It's interesting stuff. I know I've heard good things about it. I just haven't kind of bit the bullet and tried it myself yet.
Gotcha.
Visual Studio Magazine. What's on tap for .NET 8? This is actually pretty cool because it's covering Front-End Developer Day, which I was at and attended live and got to also speak at. So the David Ortnow was there, and he was covering a lot of the new features that are coming in .NET 8. So there's just a lot of effort to kind of support Blazor Hybrid there. And then there's a lot of stuff that's just kind of in the general roadmap they're looking for feedback on. They want to get people's, opinions on what it is they'd like to see in .NET 8. Of course, we've got Blazor United. I don't know if you've heard about that, John.
No.
So Blazor United, something that Steve Sanderson talked about a couple weeks back, and they also did a show on the Visual Studio or .NET. What's it called? .NET Stand Up live show. .NET Stand Up. Let me Google that for everybody real quick. This one. .NET Community Stand-Up. I was trying to remember it. Knew it had another word in there. They did a Blazor United and .NET 8 kind of a roundtable where they're kind of riffing ideas. They had some demos of things that they're trying. And basically what I got from that video was they're working on kind of a micro front-end approach to Blazor. So you could have one of many Blazor alternatives to work with your website or web application. So currently there's two models with Blazor. You can go Blazor server, which is kind of like a thin client approach where everything runs on the server, and then you've kind of got the web browser being the dumb terminal, and the Blazor server is just pushing kind of view updates down the wire. Okay. Then the other approach is like the opposite. Everything runs in the browser in WebAssembly, and then you're talking to web APIs on the back end, very traditional web development model. Each of those has like a pretty big trade-off though. Like the back end server side is like everything's in like probably Azure most cases, and you're paying a pretty big Azure bill for all of that code running on the server. Yep. With WebAssembly, now you're running everything client side, and you're loading in the .NET runtime into the browser, which takes about 1.5 gigs. So depending on what your bandwidth is, you might see some issues there. And it's generally just not quite as fast as similar solution written in JavaScript. Okay. That's give or take, you know, I mean, you're talking forms over data, it's negligible. If you're doing something that's massively real time, like a stock ticker application or something like that, it could become an issue. Generally it's not, but you know, if you're going to just shoot comparison the two side by side, there is a different latency between them. So this is what the Blazor United aims to fix. And the way they aim to fix that is through these different types of models that you can use, where some of them were like, well, we'll render everything on the server, ship it to the browser, and then pieces of that application will become interactive as assets get delivered. Yeah, it makes sense. And then there were some where you know, you may have just a form on the page that becomes active, or maybe you're just like lazy loading in all sorts of different modules as this thing boots up. So there's varying degrees of combination of WebAssembly and server side and isomorphic rendering and all sorts of stuff. So some of this is being influenced by other JavaScript frameworks and meta frameworks, but it is all really interesting stuff. And of course, there's the Blazor hybrid on Maui solution as well, where you're taking your Blazor app and shipping it to the desktop and mobile, and it's running as a native application. So there's those approaches too. So that's one of the things that they were talking about in front end dev day, and it's all going to be slated for .NET 8. So this is all roadmap stuff that's getting put together for what I'm going to assume is November this year.
Okay. Cool.
Homebrew 4.
Yes. Are you a fan of Homebrew?
I've heard of it, but I have not used it.
So Homebrew is one of the most popular ways in which you'll distribute applications and packages around, typically on macOS, macOS. And for the longest time, we've been stuck on 3.star. And one of the big gripes that people have had about Homebrew is the fact that it basically does a clone of all the repos that you'll pull down, etc. The way that it's structured is really, really gnarly. It doesn't run with a lot of security enforcement, etc. And so 4.0 just dropped. And one of the big changes they made is making it much more efficient on the wire. So rather than pulling down all the packages and apps that are associated with it via GitHub, because that's its primary mechanism of distribute, it now just utilizes JSON files, which makes it a lot more lighter weight. So you've gone from this sort of massive distributable of all these packages down to a very small 3.5 meg file of a JSON file. So I have not yet downloaded and installed this yet, but I will be doing so very soon, and I'm looking forward to using it.
Now, is this the equivalent to something like Chocolatey on Windows?
Yes.
Okay. I knew I had heard about this before.
Yeah, there you go.
I covered
You're not
this
that far away from using a Mac. There you go.
Yeah, I covered this in one of my SaaS talks. So one of the things to talk about is how it used to be very kind of not difficult, but it was kind of messy to install SaaS, the CSS precompiler, because you had to use things like Gulp or Grunt or Webpack, and they came with a lot of dependencies and stuff. But in reality, the SaaS compiler is just a command line tool on its own. And you don't really need all the baggage of all those dependencies if you're not using the benefits of those package management systems and compilers like Webpack.
Gotcha. Yep.
So if all I'm doing is using SaaS, and I don't really need all of Webpack just to run that one command line. So what you could do is you could just use Homebrew on Mac to get the SaaS compiler, just a standalone SaaS compiler. And then after that, it's just running the command line. Same with Windows. You just jump on Chocolatey and grab it and install it. So these tools are like super helpful at installing those like third-party command line tools and apps and things. I don't know if Homebrew has a feature like this. What's like something you would want to install on Mac, John? That might be in here.
An example might be Terraform. So the Terraform CLI.
So on Chocolatey, what's really cool, I don't see it on here, but it may be something we could do if this is just copied to clipboard. So Chocolatey has a really cool feature where when you're in this view, you can actually click on, you can copy the script, of course, but you can also click on another button and it'll build like kind of like a menu of stuff that you want to install, and you can like queue up like a whole system, like restore.
Yeah, I've used Chocolatey before. So
yeah, so it'll like actually build a script for you. So you're like, okay, I have to refresh my system, and I've got all of these installs to perform. You just go onto Chocolatey and just like check a bunch of boxes, and then be like, okay, I'm going to install these 10 apps, and then you wipe your system, come back, paste that Chocolatey script in, and then you're back to hopefully running. It's usually got about 90% of the things I use on it, and then certain commercial things don't have a package, but for the most part, yeah, it's a very helpful tool, and it's nice to see Brew getting an update. Kubernetes, the infrastructure at Medium.
Yeah, so Medium's a very popular blogging platform a lot of folks use, and this is an article that talks about how they use Kubernetes to manage their infrastructure for the site itself. Kubernetes is a really great way of, it basically allows you to do containerized deployments of applications and microservices, etc., and manages it at scale with resiliency, etc. And so they talk in this blog post. Well, Eduardo, who's one of the engineers at Medium, talks a little bit about how they use Kubernetes at Medium. I love blog posts like this. These are great because they give you a real world example of what actually people are doing.
Good old how the sausage is made.
Yeah,
type of blog post.
I love watching sausage get made, believe me. So this is definitely a good article to check out if you're interested at all at how people are doing it elsewhere.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of shows like this too. It doesn't have to be software related either. It's that old Canadian show, How It's Made. That's always a good one. Like anything in this realm, I like to look at. So this is very cool, John. And I will post all of these links on my LinkedIn as soon as I can get time to do that. We started the show a little bit early, so usually I have that queued up, but not yet today. So I'll do that this afternoon and get that out. You'll find that on my LinkedIn page later today. Olya Gavrish talking about upgrading your .NET projects with Visual Studio.
Yeah, so this is a VS extension that's now available up on the marketplace. This is the .NET Upgrade Assistant, and what it basically does is it walks you through a series of steps to upgrade your applications, your .NET applications, to the latest versions of .NET. So after you install the extension, you basically, click upgrade, and it will walk you through the upgrade process. And so there's an upgrade assistance that complements this. It supports a variety of different projects, including ASP, .NET, WPF, WinForms, class libraries, console applications, and soon they're going to be adding support for Xamarin to .NET MAUI, UWP to WinUI,
Wow.
and WCF to WCF Core.
That is awesome. Yeah, this is, I did not hear about this before. This is impressive. This is not an easy thing to do. I know the Upgrade Assistant has been around for a while as a command line tool, I believe it was. But to see it baked into Visual Studio, this is really nice. It looks like it's got a pretty good UI on it too. So it's kind of gives you that checklist of things that are able to be upgraded. It'll probably give you kind of hints on things that can't be directly one step upgraded. Hence probably the different upgrade models it gives you. I saw that was in there too. So you have your in place, your side-by-side incremental paths. So that is a nice way to support this as well, because we can't all just drop in place over the original project and hope it works. There might be some things that just aren't supported, so you have to kind of do a side-by-side and rewrite some things as you go. This is pretty awesome. I know the jump from .NET Framework to .NET Core is a big one. There was a lot of changes, a lot of breaking changes between those two things. So there's been people that have been reluctant to kind of take that new path. But eventually the support will run out on .NET Framework. I'm not saying it is soon. I know there's probably a date set. I just haven't seen it in a while. And I know they're not shipping any like new updates for .NET Framework. There's security patches and stuff like that, but none of the new features are coming to .NET Framework. It's all .NET Core now. So you're going to want to get over there eventually. So definitely if you're .NET Dev and you've got legacy projects, check this out. Now's the time, John. Zarf update. Am I saying that right?
Zork.
Oh, this is Zarf at the top.
Oh, no,
the blog.
Different.
The blog is Zarf.
Zarf is something else.
Treasury of Zork maps. This is something I haven't heard of for quite some time.
I know. Zork was one of the very first terminal-based games that you could use. It was sort of like an adventure game where it would tell you, it was like playing Dungeons and Dragons by yourself when you were a kid in front of your Commodore or whatever. So what this blog post is based off a Reddit link that was posted to the Zork subreddit, and basically a series of maps that you can check out. So if you're nostalgic, if you're old like I am, and you're curious at all at looking at some modern and artistic variations of Zork maps, you can check this out.
I like that they put the dates on these, because I don't feel as old as I thought I was.
Sure, let's go with that.
Well, I would have been not born yet on this first one, so there's that. I didn't realize Zork was that old. So Zork is older than I am. That's news to me. I thought it was something that came out when I was a kid. I didn't realize it was in existence before I was there. It was still pretty popular when I was a kid, so I always just thought it was new. That's neat, though. I like that people are still keeping this alive. I'm surprised there's not like an AI thing generating like new maps or something now.
Sure.
Like we haven't AI'd everything yet. Like
Well, we will.
we've rebooted every television show. Why not AI? Generate like all the old games with new content. Curl turns 20. What are you doing, John? Are you just trying to make people feel old with these links? Curl turns 25.
Yeah, so curl is command line utility for it's used everywhere. Like if you read their website, they talk about how it's used in cars, television sets, phones, tablets, etc. It's got over 10 billion installations. It's basically a tool that allows you to transfer data via URL, and it is hitting 25 years old. So in
What
March,
do you know?
so...
We share a birthday. This is insane.
There you go. So happy birthday!
Who knew?
Yeah, so happy early birthday to Curl.
We're both 25. This is amazing. Same day, March 20th, 1998. I remember it was like it was yesterday.
Yep.
Extensible markup languages 1.0.
Yeah,
more nostalgia?
No, it's exactly. So this is 25 years old as well. So the XML specification turned 25 on February 10th. So curl and XML, it's like two great tastes together at last. I thought I'd just point that out.
Dumb password rules.
Yeah. Click on view sites. These are sites that have
I like this.
These are sites. Yeah, these are sites.
This is cynical as hell. I love it.
Stupid rules for adding passwords. So
yes,
it's
thank you.
Like a wall of shame.
This should have been done a long time ago. Like I absolutely love this. A few of these I encountered over the last week, by the way. ADP and Air France, I both had come to blows with. This one caught me. Air France, your password should be between 8 and 12 characters and contain capital letters, lowercase, as well as these special characters are permitted. And space is not one of those characters, by the way, so that gets rejected. And how about telling people that want to brute force their way through this exactly what combination of things to use when they try? Yeah. Between 8 and 12 characters. So we know that the password is going to be between 8 and 12 characters, John, will not contain any spaces, and will probably have at least one capital letter in them.
Yep.
Yeah, I love this website. This is amazing. You've made my day.
Okay.
I like this. This forces people to adopt best practices that may not have already. So, yeah. By the way, who's still using AOL? That's a conversation for another day.
Sure.
And then finally, MarioGPT.
Yeah, so if you're a Super Mario fan and you wanting new maps, this is something that might help you a little bit. So this is a ability to generate new map, or basically new levels for Super Mario using MarioGPT.
That's what I was saying. Point this at Zork and give us some new Zork maps.
Sure, why not?
For us that haven't had the chance to enjoy that already, we'd have all brand new maps for it.
Yep.
This is cool. I'm wondering, like, if game developers are going to be using like AI to like
game developers do this sort of stuff all the time.
I mean, I know they procedurally generate things, but there's this is a little more intelligent, I think, than, or maybe it's less. I don't know.
Or maybe less intelligent. Who knows?
Yeah, who knows? Yeah. Very cool. I like it, John. Again, I'll post these up as soon as I can on my LinkedIn page. But that's all we've got for today, John. Thank you so much for joining me and sharing your reading list with me.
No worries.
Much appreciated. It's been great. Next week, I'm going to jump on with Catherine, who's our resident React expert. And I'm going to share some JavaScript techniques with her that I enjoy. Nice. So I like to do some functional exercises with JavaScript. try to make code cleaner, better, easier to read, stuff like that.
Very nice.
So we'll have some fun with that next week on Wednesday. I think we're going to do that. And then we'll bring back some Blazor Power Hour as well. So I'm back from traveling. My streams are coming back. And I'll probably jump on my own private channel on Twitch under my name and do some modern CSS stuff. Getting back into CSS like big time. There's just so much going on there. It's just fun to learn all the new odds and ends that are coming out in CSS 4 and 5 and beyond. It's just good stuff. Like one of them is container queries. I don't know if you heard about this one, John.
No.
It's been talked about for quite some time. So we have media queries, which kind of give you like the overall, my device can display this many pixels type of a query. Containers are, I have a div or a section and its size is X. So if it's bigger than or smaller than some number, rearrange the content inside to fit better. Nice. So it's like media queries, but for a single element rather than the entire app. So that's going to be super helpful. That shipped to all Evergreen browsers finally. Wow. So that is one of those, can I use everywhere? Yes, you can use it now. So there's lots of good stuff out that I can't wait to try out. So I might tinker with that on my channel on Fridays once I get caught up on some work here. So anything else from you, John, before we go?
No, I'm just stay safe, everyone. We'll see you next week.
All right. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.
See ya.